So really what we have to do is have a small number of people concentrating on a certain path, and we get it. It's that interesting. And there's all kinds of experiments that have proven that you can change consciousness in your area by intent. It comes down to, at one point in time, I thought it was 1% of the people to create this. Now we know if you have the right intent, you only need the square root of 1%. That means we only need 8,000 people on the planet having the same intent of going into the golden age, and we get it. Because the rest will be hanging out at randomness. I've been to parties that have had 8,000 people at them, I'm sure. I think some of them at my farm. Certainly the chocolate rave we're going to have in May is going to have 8,000 people at it. But the point here is that I'm sure you've been at sporting events or various expos and stuff like this. There are things that create phenomena around the world. It could be a 9/11 incident, or it could be an incident that doesn't have fear, that has a golden portal. Because it really comes down to the mosquito on the bum of the elephant theory. What do I mean by that? Our consciousness is a great perceiver. We can perceive 40 bits of information per second. That's pretty awesome. But our unconscious, I don't want to say subconscious because I don't think it's below, our unconscious can perceive 20 million bits of information per second. So you can see that our conscious mind is 500 or 500,000 times less conscious than our subconscious or unconscious. So literally our conscious mind, what we think in, is literally like the mosquito on the bum of an elephant, size-wise. So when you're going through this process, you can't use your conscious mind to do it. You have to let your feeling body perceive it. You have to become a receptor site and not filter the information. So you'll be way more effective to get this done. As I said, this whole process started off in Atlantis 5,125 years. I said approximately 5,300 years ago, when there was a whole Kundalini process that went on down there, and it changed where it went. And this process is going on around the world. And right now we say the Kundalini, the planet, is hanging down around the Peruvian-Chilean border, somewhere around Lake Titicaca. That's where the Kundalini energy is right now. For the last period it was over in Tibet, now it's moved. And there are people talking a lot about that. The time is present. According to the Greeks, there's two types of time. Chronos, which is mechanical time, our watch. Then there's Kairos. This is the type of time that we perceive. I don't know if in your life this is true, but most of the people I know, things are speeding up, and they're really speeding up. Things are going way faster. My God, it's already the end of the summer. I just think it started last week. Well, that actually is true in Alberta this year. But the point here is, things are moving really fast. We can say that the center crystal at our planet's core, the iron crystal, it's beating at a different vibration. We now have scientific proof to show that the planet's beating at a different rate than it ever has in recorded history, and we're synchronizing with that. So as these things speed up, we're going to have a tremendous amount of things happen between now and the end of 2012. According to the Mayan mathematical model, literally things are going to speed up 20 times more than they are right now. They're 20 times more now than they were in 1999. So you can imagine, if you're having a hard time handling your schedule right now, what's it going to be like when it's 20 times more intense? And it will get 20 times more intense. You can't rely on conscious mind anymore. It's just that simple. We literally are going to go through a quantum jump in reality. And that pushes us through. We now know that the timekeeper from this is the little wee microtubules in our cells called the centrioles. And we can show that they're the things that pass us through dimensions. It's very, very cool. And we now know the physiology behind this various thing, and it's all written down in the Mayan text. And again, I don't have time to go into it. I do go into it much more in depth on the online Mayan course, and we're going to be putting more around this because I'm getting more information. But literally, these centrioles are the key. The centrioles themselves are actually made in the shape of the seed of life, the flower of life, and the tree of life. to be able to create this phenomena. And when you put it all together with the maths, there's 3 tubules with 13 7 and 6 day cycles that literally end up being the Zolkin of 260 days. So it looks like the Zolkin and the 9th dimension of the sacred calendar are all done in this mathematical 360, and we can walk our way through understanding that pretty easily with how the amino acids are lined up, which I just think that kind of thing is really cool. Let's get back to the magical mushrooms. So when I was first looking at this, I see that I've been working with medicinal mushrooms for a long time. It's been one of my favorite areas of working with. In fact, I've written books on medicinal mushrooms. They're out of print at this point in time, but back in the early 90s. And we find that these mushrooms work in different ways. Now, the mushrooms that the shamans used for journeying herbs were then to expand consciousness and then go down timelines. We don't need those mushrooms anymore, actually. Even though I talked about psychedelic mushrooms and stuff like that, I'm saying it's time for us to retract from those psychedelic realms and go into grounding herbs at this point in time. We don't need to vision seek anymore. What we really want to do is work with other mushrooms. But when we look at most mushrooms, when a person thinks of shrooms or mushrooms, of course they think of shamans and visions and various of the psychedelic mushrooms that have been used. I'm suggesting that's not what we're talking about here. But the mushrooms do have a direct connection to the deviant kingdom, the fairy kingdom. I'm saying that's useful for us to interact with, which is the finer level of vibration. But really, what are the mushrooms doing? What we know is that the great alchemists, they transmute material into nutritional things. When I say they're the great alchemists, I mean, what do you do with a mushroom? When someone treats you like a fungus, what do? They keep you in the dark and they feed you dung, right? So literally, we grow mushrooms and other species' feces, then take them up and chop them up and put them on our pizza. Or put them in a salad. That's confidence in their transmutational capability, okay? They're great transmuters. They're the great alchemists that transmute us, okay? If you can grow them on other species' feces, what do you think they can do for the crap in your body? They can transmute your crap and your consciousness and be able to get rid of it and be able to calm you down. Just like the psychedelic mushrooms are hallucinatory, we have other things that go this way. We have now found they're great tonics. And we can say categorically, scientifically, without a shadow of a doubt, they reduce tumors, blood cholesterol, blood pressure, bronchial inflammation, nervous tension, viral infections, insomnia, duodenal ulcers, allergies, diabetes, hepatitis, progressive muscular dystrophy, and high elevation sickness, just to mention a few. But how do they work? We now know that the fungi are closer to us than they are to the plants. When I went for my first degree in environmental biology way back in the 60s and early 70s, the funguses were part of the plant kingdom. That's what we thought. Now they have their own kingdom. A lot of people like to know why I like to study the mushrooms. And I think it's quite obvious, actually. I consider myself a fun guy. So, it's only obvious for me to study the fungi. Right? But this kingdom, we see, is much closer to humans than us. The higher level mushrooms share 93% of the genetic code with us. That's kind of cool. 93% of the genetic code. That is very similar to us. So, for example, the higher level mushrooms breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, the same as we, not like plants. They're quite the opposite there. They're very intelligent, and I wish I had time to go through all their intelligence, but we can literally use them to create all kinds of chemicals, and we've been able to employ them in that various function. But probably the most important thing is they have a higher level of consciousness. They're great. But when we think of a mushroom, we don't really know, most of us, what a mushroom is. When you pick a mushroom, it's like picking the apple off an apple tree. The real tree is underground. And when you're just picking them, it's like the fruit. These trees are awesomely large. And when I say awesomely large, I do mean huge in size. In fact, the whole planet is covered with a mycelium mat, somewhere between 3 and 18 inches thick. When I say the whole planet, I'm talking through the ocean, over the ocean, through the icebergs, everywhere. It's connected. To give us a little bit better perspective of what this is in a petri dish, this is what it looks like. They're little stringy hairs. Okay? These little wee stringy hairs are the mycelium base that literally are the mushroom. They're the real tree, and what we think are just the fruiting bodies are the fruiting bodies. So they're kind of out of sight. They literally are the consciousness of our planet. I don't have time going through this experiment, but we can prove they have intelligence, we can prove they have memory, and their memory is very awesome. They can remember things up to 899 generations. And the degenerates can't remember what they did in the 900th generation ago. Do you remember